You feel it, don't you? A constant humming pressure to be somewhere, to be with someone, to be doing something. It's the background noise of the modern world, a relentless whisper that tells you if you're alone, you're losing. It insists that connection is only found in a crowd, that progress is only made in public, and that your value is measured by how many people are watching. Today, we're going to tear down that faulty structure because you've been sold a lie. You're running from the one place where the most important work gets done, the quiet, still, and powerful stage of being alone. In the next few minutes, I'm not just going to tell you to spend time alone. I'm going to hand you the blueprint for why it's the most critical phase of construction for a man of substance. We're going to explore how to use solitude not as an escape, but as a workshop. This isn't about loneliness. This is about architecture. This is about building a foundation so solid that no storm can shake it. I'm Michael. I've spent more than 35 years of my life building things. Companies from the ground up, a family, a life that has meaning. But I can tell you with absolute certainty that the most important structure I ever built was myself. And the bedrock for that entire construction project, the part of the build that nobody saw but that supports everything, was laid in the periods of my life when I chose to be alone. I've seen what happens when you build on shaky ground, and I've got the scars to prove it. Now, I'm giving you the tools to build it right the first time. So I want you to do two things. Hit subscribe and turn on the notifications. Think of this channel as your workshop, and every video is a new tool for your toolbox. You don't want to miss a single one, because you never know which tool will be the one that makes all the difference. Let's get to work. Before we can even begin to appreciate the structure of solitude, we have to first clear the debris of why we run from it. Society has done a masterful job of framing solitude as a failure. It's painted as the sad, lonely state of the man who wasn't invited, the one who was left out, the one who has no options. We see it in movies, we hear it in songs, this constant narrative that to be alone is to be unwanted. And so, we fill every waking moment with noise. We scroll through other people's lives on our phones. We jump from one social gathering to the next. We keep the television on just for the sound. Anything to avoid the deafening silence of our own company. We've become so accustomed to external input that we've forgotten how to operate without it. Think about it like this. Imagine you're a builder, and you're tasked with constructing the most important house you'll ever build, the house of your own character. But instead of taking the time to survey the land and draw a proper blueprint, you allow a crowd of people to gather on your job site. Everyone has an opinion. One person tells you the kitchen should be bigger. Another insists you need more windows. A third thinks the whole design is wrong. They're all shouting, pulling you in different directions, handing you tools you don't need and materials that won't last. In the chaos, you start building. You lay a foundation here, put up a wall there, all based on the conflicting advice of the crowd. The result? A weak, disjointed, and inauthentic structure that doesn't look or feel like anything you truly wanted. It's a house built by committee, and it can't even stand up to a strong wind. That is what most men are doing with their lives. They are building a life by committee, terrified to ask the crowd to leave so they can finally hear themselves think. This fear of being alone is the single greatest obstacle to building a life of purpose. Because the truth, the one that nobody likes to admit, is that you cannot know who you are until you've spent significant, uninterrupted time with yourself. You cannot hear your own voice until you've silenced the voices of others. You cannot draw your own blueprint until you've cleared the job site. This stage isn't a punishment, it's a privilege. It's the dedicated, focused time where the real work begins. And the peace you find there isn't the peace of inactivity. It's the deep, profound peace of a master craftsman who finally has the space to create something that will last. So how do we begin? How do we transform solitude from a place of fear into a place of construction? It starts with understanding the first phase of any good build, surveying the land. Before you can lay a single stone, you have to know the ground you're building on. In the context of your life, this means taking a fearless inventory of who you are at your core. When you're alone, stripped of your job title, your social circle, and the expectations of your family, what remains? This is the time to ask the hard questions. What are your non-negotiable values? Not the ones you've been told to have, but the ones that resonate deep in your bones. What are your genuine strengths? And more importantly, what are your honest weaknesses? I remember a time in my mid-20s when my first business was just a collection of sketches and half-formed ideas. I was working a job I didn't hate, but certainly didn't love. And I spent my evenings and weekends surrounded by friends, noise, and distraction. I felt a deep, gnawing sense that I was drifting, that the life I was living wasn't truly mine. So I did something that seemed crazy to everyone around me. I took a week of my vacation time, and instead of going on a trip with friends, I rented a small, quiet cabin in the mountains by myself. No phone service, no television, just a stack of books and a notepad. The first 2 days were excruciating. The silence was so loud it felt like a physical pressure. I was restless, anxious, and desperate for a distraction. My mind, so used to constant input, was screaming in protest. But I stayed. I forced myself to sit with the discomfort. And then, on the 3rd day, something shifted. The noise in my head started to quiet down. For the first time in years, I could hear my own thoughts with startling clarity. I started writing, not a journal of my feelings, but an honest assessment. A survey of my own internal landscape. I wrote down the things I was afraid of, the compromises I had made, the dreams I had quietly shelved because they seemed impractical to others. I realized that my fear of failure was so profound that I had avoided even trying to build something of my own. I saw that I had been living according to a blueprint drawn by my well-meaning parents and the expectations of my peers. By the end of that week, I didn't have all the answers, but I had something far more valuable. I had an honest understanding of the ground I was standing on. I knew where the bedrock was solid and where the soil was soft. That week of solitude didn't magically build my business, but it was the essential survey that allowed the real work to begin. Without it, I would have spent my entire life building on someone else's land. What is the one noise from the outside world that you find the hardest to ignore? The one voice that keeps you from hearing your own? I want you to think about that, and then I want you to share it in the comments below. Acknowledging it is the first step to silencing it. Once you've surveyed the land, the next step in the process is to draw the blueprint. This is where the architect truly shines. In the quiet of your solitude, free from the committee of outside opinions, you get to design the structure of your life. This is not about wishful thinking. This is about intentional design. You wouldn't start building a house without a detailed plan. Yet most men are winging it through life, reacting to circumstances instead of creating them. Solitude is your drafting table. It's where you decide what your life will stand for. This blueprint has several key components. First, you define the purpose of the structure. What is this life for? Is it a fortress designed for security and protection? Is it a workshop designed for creation and contribution? Is it a lighthouse designed to guide others? A life without a defined purpose is just a collection of rooms with no connecting hallways. It's disjointed and confusing. In solitude, you can sit and contemplate what truly gives you a sense of meaning. Not happiness, that's a fleeting emotion. I'm talking about deep, resonant meaning. The kind of thing that gets you out of bed in the morning with a fire in your belly. For me, I realized my purpose was to build, not just businesses, but to build people up, to build a family, to build a legacy of integrity. That became the central design principle of my life's blueprint. Next, you design the core pillars of the structure. These are your non-negotiable principles. Think of them as the main support beams of your house. If they fail, the whole thing comes crashing down. These are the values you identified during your survey, now codified into rules for living. For example, one of my pillars is impeccable honesty. It means I don't lie, not to my clients, not to my family, and most importantly, not to myself. Another is quiet competence. It means I let the quality of my work speak for itself. I don't need to boast or seek validation. In solitude, you can define these pillars for yourself. Maybe one of yours is unwavering discipline, or radical compassion, or continuous learning. Whatever they are, you write them down. You make them real. This blueprint becomes your guide for every decision you make. When a new opportunity arises, you hold it up to your blueprint and ask, does this fit the design? Does this align with the purpose of the structure I am building? If the answer is no, you decline, no matter how tempting it seems. This is the power of having a plan. It simplifies your life and gives you a profound sense of direction. Now we come to the most challenging and therefore the most important part of the build, laying the foundation. You can have the most beautiful blueprint in the world, but if you build it on sand, it's worthless. The foundation of a man's character is his mental and emotional resilience. And this foundation is poured, cured, and strengthened in the crucible of solitude. It's in the moments when you are alone with your thoughts, with your anxieties, with your fears, that you learn to master your internal world. This is not a comfortable process. It's like mixing concrete by hand. It's gritty, it's messy, and it's exhausting. But it is absolutely essential. When you consistently spend time alone, you are forced to confront the patterns of your own mind. You start to notice the negative self-talk, the recurring anxieties, the triggers that send you into a spiral of doubt or anger. In the noise of everyday life, it's easy to ignore these things, to numb them with distraction. But in solitude, there is nowhere to hide. You have to face them. And in facing them, you learn to manage them. You learn that thoughts are just thoughts. They are not you, and they do not have to control you. You learn to observe them without judgment, like clouds passing in the sky. This is the beginning of true mental strength. Think of it as stress testing your materials. Every time you sit in silence and resist the urge to grab your phone, you are strengthening your discipline. Every time you feel a wave of anxiety and choose to breathe through it instead of running from it, you are reinforcing the concrete of your foundation. You are teaching yourself that you can withstand internal pressure. This is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. It's built in small, consistent increments. It's the 10 minutes of quiet meditation in the morning. It's the solo walk in the woods without headphones. It's the evening spent reading a book instead of watching television. Each of these moments is like adding another layer of rebar to your foundation. Men who skip this stage are the ones who crumble under pressure. They are the ones who have a public persona of strength, but are privately consumed by anxiety. They are the ones who lash out in anger because they have never learned to manage their own internal state. They have built a beautiful-looking house on a foundation of sand. And the first major storm that comes along, a job loss, a health crisis, a relationship failure, will wash it all away. The peace that comes from a solid foundation is immeasurable. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that you are in control of your own mind, that you can handle whatever life throws at you because the core of you is unshakable. This peace isn't found in a crowd. It's forged in the quiet of your own company. Finally, once the foundation is laid and the blueprint is clear, solitude becomes your personal workshop. This is the stage where you hone your tools and refine your craft. A builder is only as good as his tools, and a man is only as effective as his skills. The focused, uninterrupted time that solitude provides is the ultimate environment for deep learning and skill acquisition. In a world of constant distraction, the ability to focus deeply on a single task is a superpower. And that superpower is cultivated when you are alone. This is where you read the books that expand your mind. It's where you practice the instrument, learn the new language, or master the coding that will advance your career. It's where you can work on your craft, whether that's writing, painting, or woodworking, without the pressure of an audience. Think about the greatest craftsmen and thinkers throughout history. They all had their periods of intense, isolated focus. It was in that solitude that they had their breakthroughs, that they created their masterworks. They understood that creation requires concentration, and concentration is a fragile thing that is easily shattered by the noise of the world. I learned this lesson when I was trying to grow my furniture business. In the early days, I was doing everything, managing the books, talking to clients, and trying to build the furniture myself. I was constantly being pulled in a dozen different directions, and the quality of my work was suffering. I was busy, but I wasn't productive. I was making a lot of sawdust, but I wasn't creating beautiful pieces. I made a decision. I started blocking out 3 hours every morning from 5 to 8, where I was completely alone in my workshop. I told my family not to disturb me. I turned off my phone. For those 3 hours, it was just me, the wood, and my tools. In that sacred, uninterrupted time, my skills exploded. I learned to see the grain of the wood in a new way. I perfected my joinery. I experimented with new designs. My work went from being merely competent to being truly exceptional. Those 3 hours of solitude each day were more productive than the entire rest of the day combined. It was in that workshop, alone, that I built the reputation that my entire business now rests upon. What is the one skill, the one tool, that you know would transform your life if you could just find the focused time to master it? What is the craft you've been neglecting? That is what your workshop is for. Solitude gives you the time. You just have to have the discipline to use it. So you see, this stage of being alone is not an empty waiting room. It is the most productive and essential phase in the construction of a man. It's the survey, the blueprint, the foundation, and the workshop. It is the source of all clarity, direction, resilience, and skill. To skip it is to commit to a life of flimsy construction, of building a house that is not your own on ground that you do not understand. Now, a word of caution. When you begin to embrace this stage, people may not understand. They may see your withdrawal as a rejection. They may call you selfish or antisocial. You must not let their confusion deter you. You are not rejecting them. You are choosing to invest in yourself so that you have more to offer when you do engage. A man who is comfortable and at peace with himself is a better husband, a better father, a better friend, and a better leader. You are not building this structure just for you. You are building it for everyone who will ever depend on you. You are building a shelter that can withstand the storms, a place of strength and stability in a chaotic world. So I urge you, do not run from the silence. Do not fear the quiet moments. Embrace them. Schedule them. Protect them as fiercely as you would protect your most valuable asset, because that is exactly what they are. Start small. Find 15 minutes a day. Go for a walk without your phone. Sit in a room and just breathe. As you become more comfortable, expand the time. Take yourself out to dinner. Go to a movie alone. Plan your own solo retreat, even if it's just for a single day. Learn to be your own best company. Because here is the final, beautiful truth. When you learn to find peace in solitude, you are no longer dependent on the outside world for your sense of well-being. You are free. You can engage with people and society not out of a desperate need for validation, but out of a genuine desire to connect and contribute. You can walk into a crowded room with the same sense of calm that you have when you are by yourself, because your peace is internal. It is forged, not found. It is built, not bought. You carry it with you everywhere you go. You have the blueprint now. You understand the importance of the survey, the design, the foundation, and the workshop. The only question that remains is whether you will have the courage to clear the job site, to ask the crowd to leave, and to begin the quiet, solitary, and deeply rewarding work of building yourself. Remember, you are the architect of your own character. Don't let anyone else hold the pencil. Now, get to work, and I'll see you in the next one. Let's delve deeper into this idea of the workshop, because it's a concept that many men intellectually understand, but fail to practically implement. Your workshop is not just a place for hobbies. It is a laboratory for life. It's where you take abstract knowledge and transform it into tangible skill. The world is drowning in information. You can find a tutorial for anything, a guide for everything. But information alone is useless. It's like having a pile of high-quality lumber and a set of expensive tools, but never actually building anything. The value is not in the possession of the materials, it's in the application. Solitude provides the focused environment necessary for that application. When you are in your workshop, you are engaged in what I call deep work. This is the process of focusing without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. It's a state of flow where you are fully immersed, and it is in this state that you produce your best work and improve your skills most rapidly. This state is impossible to achieve when your phone is buzzing, when people are interrupting you, when your attention is fragmented. Your workshop is a fortress against fragmentation. Consider the process of learning a complex skill, like woodworking, which has been a cornerstone of my life. You can watch 100 videos about how to cut a dovetail joint. You can understand the theory, the angles, the measurements. But until you pick up the chisel and the saw, until you feel the resistance of the wood, until you make the mistakes and correct them, you haven't learned anything. My first dozen attempts at a dovetail joint were a disaster. They were gappy, crooked, and weak. I could have gotten discouraged. I could have blamed the tools or the wood. But in the quiet of my workshop, there was no one to perform for, no one to impress. There was only the task at hand. I could take the time to analyze my mistakes. Was my chisel not sharp enough? Was I holding the saw at the wrong angle? I could experiment, adjust, and try again, and again, and again. It was a slow, methodical, and sometimes frustrating process. But with each attempt, my hands learned something that my mind already knew. That is the magic of the workshop. It's where theory becomes reality. This applies to every area of your life. If you want to become a better writer, your workshop is the quiet hour you spend each morning with a blank page, not just reading about writing. If you want to become a better investor, your workshop is the time you spend analyzing financial statements and building your own valuation models, not just watching market news. If you want to build a stronger body, your workshop is the gym, where you focus on each repetition with perfect form, not just going through the motions while scrolling on your phone between sets. Your workshop is also a place for experimentation and failure. In the public square, failure is often seen as a final judgment. But in the privacy of your workshop, failure is just data, it's feedback, it's a lesson. When you are alone, the stakes are lower. You can try that audacious new idea, that risky project, that unconventional approach. without the fear of public ridicule. This freedom to fail is the secret ingredient to all innovation and growth. It's how you discover your unique style, your signature method. It's how you move from being a competent apprentice to a true master of your craft. The world only sees the finished product, the beautiful piece of furniture, the successful business. They don't see the hundreds of failed attempts, the piles of scrap wood, the late nights of frustration in the workshop. They don't see the real work, but you will know, and that is all that matters. You will know that your success was not an accident. It was forged in the fire of solitary practice.